Straighten up. And you see by the dawn's early light, watch the proudly head at the twilight's last gleam, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. For the ramparts we watch were some gallant streaming, and the rocket's red flag, now bursting in air, came through the night, and our flag was still there. Oh, say does the star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the brave and the home of the brave. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mark Morris has our invocation.
Let's pray together. Heavenly Father, we just thank you so much for this opportunity to gather together once again this week. And Lord, I just ask that you would be with us as we have just celebrated the birth of your son, Jesus, over this wonderful Easter weekend. Father, I ask that you would guide and direct us in everything that we say and do, that it would bring glory and honor to you. Father, help us to be better citizens of our city and our state and our nation, and to do the things that we should do as Rotarians and as people of God to serve our community and our nation. Lord, we thank you for the food that you provided today. We ask, Father, that you bless our speaker today and that you would go with us and bless the things that we do in your name. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen.
Gary Duffy, family road. Good morning. Hope everybody had a great Easter. Can I see a show of hands? Too many Easter eggs yesterday? Too many boiled eggs? Okay. Anyway, let's celebrate some birthdays and an anniversary. Birthdays: Tim Shirley on April the 10th, Mark Smith April 12th, Donna Clements April 14th, and on tax day, which has been moved back this year, Morgan Eagle on April the 15th. One anniversary, Sharon and our chief Larry Williams on April 16th. You all have a great week. Thank you.
And Sessions will introduce our guest visiting Rotarians.
All right, well, we got a couple today. Got Sable Riley, who's here with Wiregrass Electric. That's a guest of West and Brown. And we got Valerie Russell, who's a guest of Martin Norris. Y'all would stand.
Ms. Conlon, Camp Asker Grove. Next. 678 coins. Last four digits, 5252. 5252. Is it you? It is not. 5252 going once. Oh, there we go. It happens. Jack of Diamonds, ace lives on. Thank you, Don. Marcus Cannon, will you come up and make your announcement?
I'd like to take a few minutes and talk about a man I know and that we'll be honoring today. Known him for about 18 years. He's been a member of this club for 17 of those years. He is originally from Enterprise, Alabama. He has a marketing degree from Troy University. He's a Phi Alpha brother of mine of Sigma Alpha Epsilon fraternity. Even more important than that, he's a Christian brother of mine at Calvary Baptist Church where we worship together. He is a dedicated and loving husband. His wife, Julianne. He has two wonderful children, Sarah Beth and Whitman Reichard. I had the wonderful opportunity to watch them grow up together and spend a lot of time with him and his family. Always a kind word, always willing to help, just loving and dedicated. We spent a lot of time community events, school, sports, and of course, church. Kind, positive, energetic, and always willing to help. He's the true definition of service above self. Looking back, and we have a lot of creeds and mottos over the years, you know, different organizations we're involved with, but truly service above self is probably one of my favorite ones, and even Christ tells us to be selfless. So I think this gentleman has a lot of things lined up, and I'm looking forward to future leadership in this club. He's our president-elect. My privilege and honor today to talk to you about Rick Riker, next Paul Harris. There's only one problem with this guy. His taste in college football is a little bit lacking, but maybe I can come around with him since his son and my son are roommates at the university next year.
Auburn University.
It's tough. I can say Auburn, but it's gonna be tough to get the War Eagle, but
Surprise. Rick, this presentation of the Paul Harris recognition is Rotary Foundation's way of expressing its appreciation for its substantial contribution. In order to be honored as a Paul Harris Fellow, a person must contribute $1,000 to Rotary Foundation. It is named for Rotary's founder, Paul Harris, a Chicago lawyer who started Rotary International with 3 business associates in 1905. We move closer to a world of peace and goodwill today as you become our newest Paul Harris Fellow. The gift to Rotary Foundation's educational and humanitarian programs, a commitment to peace and a better life for people across the world. It is because of gifts like yours that Rotary Foundation is able to carry out an arrangement of programs that achieve beneficial changes in our world. In becoming a Paul Harris Fellow, you join a remarkable company of persons throughout the world, all recognized for the devotion to the ideal of goodwill, peace, and understanding, a goal Rotarians the world over share. It is with great pleasure that I present you with the emblems of appreciation given to the Paul Harris Fellow, your certificate and your pen. And if you could you pen his pen on his lapel? Well done. Please join me. If you all stand, please, recognizing our new Normally we come forward, please.
Good afternoon, my fellow Rotarians. A couple of weeks ago, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks ago, we talked about a new program that our president was trying to put together to get Rotarians to know each other. And the goal was lofty, and the title was 3 Facts and a Lie. And I was going to have to interview Rotarians to find out 3 facts that other Rotarians might not know about them and make up a lie. Well, the problem is, due to my sarcastic personality, people thought that that was going to be like a roast. And they didn't want to give up any information. So went back to President Gregg and said, we need to rethink this. So what we're going to try to do over the next few weeks is get to know one another. Right now, how many people in this room can look around and see Rotarians you don't know? It's over half. Over half the Rotarians in this room don't know the other half. And we could turn it around a little differently, and I could say, how many of y'all don't know me? And there are a lot of y'all here that don't and probably don't want to know me. So I help that. But in any event, what I'm going to do is I have compiled the book of Rotary and just some things, interesting things about our different members. So the way it will kind of work is I'm going to ask a Rotarian to stand up, and I'm going to read something about them, and then you'll have seen them, you'll know something about them, and maybe you can speak one time at a meeting and get to know one another. Rotate table. We've said this for years. New member comes in with their sponsor, gets sworn in, and for the next 35 years, they both sit at the same table, don't talk to anybody else. We need to get everyone included in the Rotary mission, things that we're going to do in the Rotary mission. To do it well, we've got to know each other. It'll also keep you from being embarrassed. Now, I'll give you a real quick example of that. Each year we have the dictionary campaign, and we put dictionaries in every 3rd grade class in the county. And it's a fun project, and I'd done it one year, so I was tagged to have a new person go with me to learn how to do it. We got to a class where there were a school where there were 2 3rd grades. I said, I'll do the first one, kind of watch how I do it, and you can do the second one. Well, I did my thing, and yada yada. We go down to the next classroom, and the new member, that I didn't even know his name, stood in front of that class and just had him in the aisles. They loved him. They loved him. And believing, I said, man, you really had a rapport with that 3rd grade class. He said, yeah, I used to teach 3rd grade. Now, if I'd known that, I wouldn't have been so condescending about watch me and do it my way. So hopefully, and he's back there laughing at me right now. But here's what I'm going to do. Jerry Atkinson, will you stand, please? That'd be nice. Not a roast. I'm not going to belittle him. I'm not going to make fun of him. I'm not going to be condescending toward him. Cal, let me talk down with you. You know, some of y'all have been in this Rotary Club longer than some of our new members are old. So Jerry's just going to stand there, and I'm going to tell you about it. He grew up in Dothan, graduated Dothan High School prior to attending the University of Alabama. With an appointment to West Point, he later attended Marion Military Institute. Jerry chose a business career and spent most of his working years in sales and marketing of food products throughout the United States. Jerry pursues his hobby of acting and has appeared in movie and television productions, holds the coveted Screen Actors Guild card. Probably the only one in Dothan that has that honor. Currently, Jerry is president of Jerry's Books and has released his first children's book, which is currently on sale online and a few local retail stores. Jerry is a Sunday school teacher, certified lay speaker in his church. Jerry is now retired, has been a member of the Dothan Rotary Club since 2005, having been sponsored by Dr. Lester Stewart. Y'all that don't know Jerry, make it a point, shake his hand, say glad to know you, Jerry. Thank you. Information in this book for me to get in trouble trying to carry it around.
Just like that.
Les and I were talking earlier, mentioned his 50-year class reunion, and a guy that was in his class, and I'm coming up on that momentous occasion, and was talking with a buddy of mine down in my hometown, Geneva, and he told me about a situation that happened that just scared him to death. And interesting story, I thought I'd share it. He'd driven through Geneva. There's a 4-lane highway there, so that the trucks didn't have to go through downtown, and it's 30-mile-an-hour speed limit. His daughter lives across the road, so he's going to go over and see his daughter, and he stepped out in the road, and he noticed his car coming, and he thought, well, I've got plenty of time to get across. And then he realized after he'd gotten about halfway through the first lane, the car's going about 60 miles an hour at 30 miles on. And he thought, well, and then the car moved, corrected, going towards him. And he thought, well, I better speed up, get on across. And when he did that, the car corrected again, pointed towards him. So he was halfway across the other lane. He said, well, I'll just go back. So he went back, and the car corrected again, pointed right towards him. And he was just thinking, well, this will age me. He said, Elizabeth, this is the big one. And but then the car reeled the brakes and slid right up next to him. And he just said, oh, thank you, Lord. When it came down, there was a squirrel driving. And he said, it's not as easy as it looks, is it? Les Moreland will introduce our speaker.
Thank you for warming the crowd up, Rick. I got to Wiregrass Electric in 2005 as an outsider CFO. They had previously hired a general manager from Coleman, Alabama, who had worked at 2 North Alabama co-ops. When he got there, he realized that Wiregrass for a long time had promoted within and really didn't have any people with perspective of what other co-ops were doing around the country, and or even professionally trained in fields like accounting and finance and other critical areas. So one of the first things that the GM and I discussed was some problems we had with member services and the need for a high quality person there. So Greg Kimbro was recruited from Peace River Electric Co-op down in Central Florida back in early 2006, just a couple of months after I started at Wiregrass Electric in 2005. Brad had an impressive resume. He had, after he graduated from Troy University, and he had been working from the time he was a child. He and his brother had a lawn business, and then he did some retail work, but he found Baldwin Electric Co-op as a young man. So Brad's still a young man, but he's approaching 3 decades of experience in co-op land. And Baldwin's about 3 times the size of Wiregrass, so there's some valuable lessons learned there. Then he did spend some time at Power South in Andalusia, which is a very large company, as you know, about a $600 million generation transmission cooperative. Went down to Peace River, where we recruited him. He wanted to get back home near Brantley, I believe, get closer to home. So since 2006, Brad and I have worked together, and we would say we've transformed Wiregrass Electric Cooperative. We came into a company that was not progressive with technology, and we are now on the leading edge of technology, and we have a great team. I'm CEO, Brad's COO, Chief Operating Officer. We We also have Lisa Lenore, CFO, who's a professional. Jason Thrash, PE, is a VP of engineering, and he's got 2 more PEs. You know, we've got IT people that have a master's degree, HR people with master's degree. So we've really transformed into a corporation that benchmarks everything we do against 800 other cooperatives. And so I really don't need to tell you much about Brad in his current years. He's just been the recent chairman of the Dothan Area Chamber of Commerce, recent president of the library board. He's a leader in the Ashford Downtown Redevelopment Committee. He's led the United Way campaign. He's just been appointed on the advisory board of the medical school. I mean, we could talk a long time about all the things Brad does for economic development and public relations, but Brad's going to talk to you about our story a little bit and some of the strategies that we've got going forward at Wiregrass Electric.
Well, hey, thank you, Les. I appreciate that introduction. It's good to be with you. So many friends I see, fellow Rotarian with the Tuesday Club. And Rick, congratulations again, buddy. That's a big honor. You couldn't go to a finer, nicer person. Good job. You know, Wiregrass Electric, I'm going to talk about, I guess, other than my 2 grandchildren, one of my favorite topics and something I really, really love, and that's Wiregrass Electric Cooperative. And I tell you, since 06, coming back home, Les giving me that opportunity, really, he was an advocate and a champion for bringing me back and offering me this position. And y'all know Les Moreland, you know what a great guy he is. And it's been a pleasure to work alongside of Les. And Wiregrass Electric Cooperative, I promise you, is better today having Les Moreland as part of our system. A guy full of integrity and honesty, and y'all know that. And if you're ever around him long, you know what he's thinking, right? But anyway, certainly enjoyed working with Les. All right, so what I'd like to do is, as Les mentioned a little bit, just frame up a little bit about Wiregrass Electric, just in generalities, talk about some of the costs that we pay attention to and have to manage through, talk about EVs, electric vehicles, how that might impact our costs going forward, and then talk about being proactive again and not sitting back, looking at Les and I working with our board to look at a new rate structure that might help as we move forward in time. So with that, we'll get right into it. Okay, our focus is simply this. We have 2 high focus things that we pay attention to. Safety is always first. If we can't do it safely, then we're just not going to do it. It's just not, you know, we're not going to compromise safety for our employees and our community. So safety is paramount. We have a good safety culture. We've worked hard at it. It's been intentional, and we're proud of what we're doing there. And then the others is really the only reason we exist. That's our mission. We exist to serve them. We're member centric. Again, everything we do is going to be with the utmost integrity and honesty. What I'm going to go through today and share with you, we believe to be the absolute most truth out there, and that's how we operate. Employee development, we have some really, really fine employees. You see some of them here on the screen. Mary Beth Personnel Resources has helped us recruit some of them. Thank you, Mary Beth. So we have some really good folks, and we were intentional about making them or encouraging them and training them to be some of the best out there. Reliability, Les mentioned our VP of Engineering and Operations, Jason Thrash and his team. Boy, they're outstanding, and they do an excellent job of having our system reliable. We say to him all the time, Jason, if you can't keep the lights on, then we don't have a chance at anything else. And keeping the lights on is something that we're proud of with our reliability. Community involvement, if not us, who, right? We do all we can to be community involved and do what we can to support the community and do that through various ways. Economic development, Colton Currington back here with the Dothan Area Chamber of Commerce. He and Matt Parker, y'all know the great work they do. Wiregrass Electric, we're happy to be a small part of that, trying all we can to help and recruit business that provides people jobs and opportunity. competitive rates. You know, our structure is such, and we'll talk more about it here in a moment. We probably will never be the lowest rate, just simply because of the service territory we serve. But we do want to be competitive and pay attention to that. And again, I give Les a lot of credit. His mind never stops in the financial world. And he's done a great job of making sure that we're getting everything we can as far as efficiency in our rate. Communication, again, we want to be transparent, open, honest. That's one of the reasons I'm here today is trying to communicate what's happening with Wiregrass. All right, our footprint. The pink area here is our service territory. You see the green spot there. That's the city of Dothan. That's just there for perspective is all. You see we serve about 1,040 square miles. That's over those square miles. We operate and maintain 3,200 miles of line. We serve approximately a third of the residents in Houston County and about half of the residents in Geneva County. We serve in Coffee, Dale, Henry, but those Houston and Geneva are our two largest service territory footprint. So you see, we go in that area, as you might expect, we go through a lot of pine trees, forests, rivers, streams, swamps, a lot of territory that we cover there. Just to put that in perspective, if you drove or flew from Houston County to Seattle, Washington, you still wouldn't cover the number of miles that we maintain our system. So that just gives you a perspective of how vast and how long it truly is. All right, so we have a great partner. Les mentioned I worked with Power South before, Power South Energy Cooperative. They're our wholesale power supplier. They produce the generation source for us and the transmission source, and we take it from there and distribute it out. There's 20 systems, and we see the footprint and where we all are. You see Wiregrass there, but also they serve some north, basically from Birmingham south down to the Florida Panhandle. We're also part of a larger network, a nationwide network, the National Rural Electric Cooperative Association. All these colored areas here represent electric cooperatives that operate just like Wiregrass Electric operates, which is an at-cost, not-for-profit electric utility company that is member-owned. Our customers are actually members, and they have a financial stake benefiting in the margins. We call them margins. We don't call them profits because we're at cost. So you might remember that big block right there, Hurricane Michael. Having the national network like we have, we're able to be bigger when we need to be and still get local and operate here locally. Again, Hurricane Michael is a great example of that. I think we had about 250 linemen come in, every cooperative but one from Alabama, and we had some come in during the storm from Florida and Georgia as well, I believe. We have that national resource that can allow us to ramp up and be, as our tagline says here, big enough to serve and local enough to care. And that local is really important because we are local. Our reliability, we think, is better because of that. We have servicemen that live in areas within our service territory that can respond basically like a firefighter almost. They're not sliding down a pole. It's like my day, but it's pretty quick because they're living in the area that we're serving. When there's an outage, we don't have to dispatch them for 2 hours. All right, so our purpose is to keep the lights on. Here's a kind of cool map here. You see, if you can see it, the areas that are with lights, and then those that are not with lights. And as you can imagine, those areas that have lights are prosperous, industrialists. They have a quality of life that's really good. Those areas in the dark, not so much. Our job is to keep our area and lit up, and hopefully with the nation and not everybody losing their mind with some of these policies out there. All right, so electric vehicles. We're not here to speak badly about them. They work, they have a purpose, and in fact, if they're used the right way, and when I say that, being mindful of the grid impact, then it certainly could be a good thing. Could be a good thing for us, Wiregrass Electric. We want to sell electricity. The more kilowatt hours we sell, the more units we have to spread our costs over. But you got to pay attention to the whole story and not just part of the story. So you see here, President Biden, current administration, has had an executive order. He signs it here, saying that by 2030, all electric or all vehicles that are sold in the United States will be electric. Okay, it's a good goal. The media, of course, have played right along with that and embracing that and encouraging that as well. You see, there's stories, thousands of them. You see some of the automakers that are also saying what they're going to do, and not just, you know, throwing a little bit of money out there, but billions of dollars to revamp their manufacturing plants to be able to produce electric vehicles. You see some photos here of some. In fact, Dodge just introduced or announced they will have their Ram pickup truck, electric pickup truck, in production by fourth quarter of 2024. What about more locally here in Alabama? That was kind of a national outlook. Well, in September of last year, the governor had a Drive Electric Alabama EV Summit in Birmingham. Went to that. You see a photo here. There, me standing in front of the Ford F-150 Lightning. That's a pickup truck, all electric. You also see a school bus there, all electric. And you also see this photo here of these four people. These are the auto manufacturers, CEOs and executives in Alabama that were there talking about the investment they're making to, you know, get behind EVs and produce them. You also see, and we're not talking about California here, we're talking about Alabama, you know, a really good state, conservative, and you see some of the top leaders of our state, the governor, the DECA director, director of commerce, all there talking about what they're going to do as a state to help promote electric vehicles. Again, not here to talk badly about them, just saying this is what we hear. See some projections in 2030, what President Biden's talked about. You see some conservative, moderate, and aggressive levels. All are certainly pointing upward. And there are three types of electric vehicles. You got the hybrid, the plug-in hybrid, and then the battery. You see the differences there from all three. The battery piece there is what we're paying really, really close attention to, because that has the potential to have the most impact on the electric grid. And you see all three of those are going up in terms of sales across our country and region. And so it's not, you know, these things are actually, sales are actually happening. Anybody know where this photo was taken? I'll give it away with the background.
Winn-Dixie East.
That's right, James. Winn-Dixie East. This is a EV charging station that Winn-Dixie has put into place here, right in our service territory. And you see the equipment there behind it on the right, my right screen. That's not a concern, but it's something we all want to pay attention to. When you put in these fast charging EV stations, it's going to take more infrastructure, not just on the power grid, but locally here on our distribution as well. All right, so Wiregrass Electric manages three buckets, okay, of expense. We kind of break them down into those three. All right, the distribution expense roughly is about $18 million. That distribution expense is just what it says, our distribution. Remember, Power South, our wholesale power supplier, is the G, the generation, and the T, the transmission. We are the D, the distribution piece. And it takes about $18 million to run Wiregrass Electric. The other two buckets, energy and demand. Energy is what it just says. It's basically what the cost of fuel, nuclear, hydro, coal, solar, natural gas, whatever, to the fuel that actually is burned in these plants. The demand piece is essentially the peak, the capacity piece, the fixed cost piece, if you will. So again, what is demand? Demand is a term that describes the amount of power that Wiregrass Electric Cooperative must have, or any utility will, at the time that members or customers are using power at most. All utilities, whether it's Wiregrass Electric Cooperative, Alabama Power, the city of Dothan, all have a peak that they manage. So another way to put it, there's two examples here, okay? The fire hydrant, you have a fire hydrant at your home or neighborhood or close by, not because you need that to run water to brush your teeth with in the morning. You don't need a little treatment for that. But in case your home catches on fire, you need that capacity to flow through and put the fire out before it happens. The minivan example here, James, you might could ride to work on a motorcycle because your capacity, is just you going to work. But on the weekends, your wife, family, you don't need that capacity more than the motorcycle. So you get the minivan because you need that capacity to go to church on Sunday to transport all your family. But you're still paying for that minivan Monday through Friday, just like you were Sunday. So kind of the same way it works with capacity power plant. We, Wiregrass Electric, and a lot of utilities, rural electric utilities, we're less dense, Les mentioned that, we talked about that earlier. We're serving about 7 to 8 consumers per mile, members per mile of line. Alabama Power is going to be somewhere in the 25 to 35 range per mile of line. City of Dothan, somewhere in the 40 to 50 per mile of line. And essentially, it's the same fixed cost, regardless of the utility of constructing a mile of line. Essentially, there are some differences, but on average, about the same cost. So you have this fixed cost for that mile of line. You're spreading that fixed cost over units. Who's going to have the lower cost in theory when you're spreading your fixed cost over 7 units, 25 units, or 40 units? Obviously, the more units you can spread that fixed cost over per unit, that cost goes down. So we've been rural and serving more of the rural area. You saw the footprint earlier. We also serve a lot of big time subdivisions, and we have a lot of residential usage. We don't have a lot of that lower screen there. That's Publix West. We can serve that shopping center, that area. We need more of those. We need obviously more density. It helps our load factor, and it helps our ability to spread costs, our fixed costs over units. So why is peak and why is capacity and why is demand so important to us? Why do we pay attention to it so much? Well, this slide here shows Power South, our wholesale power supplier, the peaks that they have incurred as a system, their highest peak each year. You'll see the highest peak they ever had, and that's all 20 systems. It's Wiregrass, but all 20. You'll see December the 24th evening and December the 25th of 22, this past Christmas, you'll see Power South set an all-time capacity peak demand. And it probably, quite frankly, could have been worse had it not been Christmas morning. Had it been just a regular day where all the businesses and schools were, there as well, it might have been worse. Who knows? But you see that demand, which is the peak energy need at any given one point, you see where it was. And if the capacity or if the energy wasn't there to meet that peak, then what happens? Then the lights don't work. That's what happens. Wiregrass Electric, closer to us, this is our peak chart. And you'll see Wiregrass Electric set an all-time peak that very same day of 144 megawatts. Why is that important? Because peak capacity, when we set it, it's up there, and Power South basically charges us, all the member systems they serve, a ratchet, which is no way or a nice way of saying a penalty, basically. So of that 144, we paid or have to meet 75% of that capacity. So that's 108 megawatts that we have each month that we have to hit. And if we don't, then they charge us a ratchet, or a nice way of saying a penalty. Most months that are March, April, May, October, November, our total capacity need or peak need for those low usage months might be 40 megawatts, 50 megawatts, way less than 180. So there's a huge cost that's associated back to us, because it's not Power South being ugly or being unfair. Is they have that capacity, that brick and mortar generation plant, that they have costs because of our peak. So, and it's magnified again, because we serve so many residential homes that one cold day, everybody's doing everything at one time. There's no diversity, in other words. So instead of a huge peak, everybody goes to school or work, and the sales fall off, no demand. That little one day cost us this year unbudgeted about $1.2 million. So you can see how we want to pay attention to the peak and demand, and try to help our members understand to try not to be on it. The good news is, even though, that this, as a result of that, here's a slide that shows our wholesale power costs. Wiregrass Electric is on the wrong end of this chart here. Again, because we have some of the Power South network, we have one of the poorest load factors of any system that Power South serves. Load factor is basically the percentage of time that you have your system operating at capacity, and we're way low in load factor, and therefore we have one of the highest wholesale rates or power costs to Wiregrass Electric. However, the good news is we don't have the lowest or the highest retail rate. This chart tells you here that we have the highest wholesale rate. By transition, you would think, well, that would mean we would have the highest retail rate. That's in fact not the case. We do a lot to make up on the distribution piece, that $18 million bucket that we manage and operate. We make up a lot of ground, and you see, even though we have the highest wholesale power, we're not the highest retail. That's a good story. That means that our management team, our board of directors, we're doing a good job to manage through that high cost that we have. This is 23, and it just shows you last year about the same time. So even though $1.2 million impact, it only dropped us down one spot, as far as being competitive on the retail side. So that's a good story. No, but
Brad, if you could explain about the commercial, like the commercial being
yeah. Yeah, let's just make a good point. I do have a slide later on that, but the commercial piece, yeah, we don't have a lot of the publics of the world, a lot of the commercial accounts. We're more like a 80% residential revenue and about 20% commercial revenue. City of Dothan would be just the reverse of that. Yeah. So it's not that we're doing anything wrong or they're doing anything more right. It's just service territory. Now, back to the peak again. Remember, Power South and Wiregrass Electric reached all-time peaks back December 24th, December 25th. What if we'd have had 50 F-150 Ford Lightning Chargers on our system? Probably been okay. What if we'd had 500? I don't know. What if we had 5,000? We serve about 19,000 members. Joe Biden says, President Biden says by 2030, you see where this could get. We had an all-time peak, the ratchet penalty, and you see if that was even higher, what that penalty and that cost would be even more. And that's just, and those F-150s, this is what they call a level 2 charger. That's 19 kW. Our average home is roughly 5 kW. Okay, on our system, it's roughly 5. So you're looking at 3 times the demand just for that one level 2 charger for that Ford F-150 pickup truck. That's level 2. Level 2 takes about 6 hours to charge. Okay, what about level 3? You don't want to pull into a service station and wait 6 hours to charge your vehicle, right? So you're going to have a fast charger. You see the demand on that. It goes from 19.2 for level 2 up to 350. Imagine that now. And that's what Winn-Dixie has up here, by the way. They have a fast charger station. So most of the DV charging is taking place at home right now. That's right now. Who knows what that might look like in the future? We have to be looking at it and be prepared for it. These fast charging stations are certainly getting our attention. And for it to be really viable, electric vehicles, it's all going to depend on the charging and where you can get it. You're not going to leave Dothan, Alabama and drive to Nashville, Tennessee on an electric vehicle if you don't know somewhere along that route you're going to be able to pull over and charge your vehicle, not in 6 hours, but more like 20 or 30 minutes, maybe, and even that's even longer than conventional gas. So again, these demands is going to be on our system, potentially on our system. We have to pay attention to, because that could drive our costs and everyone else, not just us, all the electric utilities that keep really driving. Walmart just announced as an example that the majority of their stores, James and I talked about this earlier, they've announced just this past week, they're going to aggressively start putting in these fast charging stations, these 350 kW units. I don't know if Tim Shirley's here, but Marathon Oil, they have on average 8-10 pumps at their station. Multiply that by 350, and then you see what kind of load you have. And another problem no one ever talks about, not just the grid impact, but the local utility impact, because when we're serving a Tim Shirley service station right now, that might be a 50 kW load. Well, that's a certain transformer, that's a certain size wire and everything. If you start putting in a location that has 2,000 kW demand, you're going to need a new transformer, might need a new wire, bigger. Who's going to pay for all of that? Because that infrastructure is going to have to be replaced. So these are just things that we're talking about. However, we don't want to be left behind either. This shows right here that some of the federal dollars that are aggressively putting EV charging stations, fast charging stations across America. You see here, because of our lack of infrastructure for an interstate, we don't want to be left behind either, because as these EVs get out there, and I guess with enough time and money, you can put them out there, and they're throwing a lot of money out there. We don't want people driving and saying, okay, we can't charge in Dothan, so we're going to bypass that and go some other route. So it's a balancing act there for sure. What are we doing? We're trying to educate our members, community, on just what is demand and the impacts of it. We're doing all kinds of social media campaigns and advertising communication. We're also talking about, this is a slide, Wes, we're aggressively trying to help recruit business through economic development. We have partners, again, Tolton with Dothan Area Chamber of Commerce. We're part of Growth Southeast Alabama. We're doing all we can to try to work with our partners to recruit industry in here to the Wiregrass. Because one, we want our members to have opportunities, jobs, hope, but we also want to grow our load and again spread those fixed costs over units that will help our load factor. And this is a good thing that's just happened, partnering with Power South and Toby C, Judge Chair, Commission Chair with Geneva County with the spec building. We just announced ISA Corporation is going to be coming to Hartford. They're going to bring 80 jobs, good paying jobs. Those 80 jobs will have a multiplying effect. When you bring 80 people into an area, that's going to bring other business in as well. So all this is good. We're trying to do more of this. That's how we're going to help. The other thing we're doing is we're making sure that we have the latest smart meter technology so that we can know 100% what our members' load characteristics are, so we can give them a rate that can help them manage cost. Because when we're managing our costs, it has a direct and indirect impact. And so one of the things that we're Les and I again talking with our board is proposing a time of use demand rate. and you see the hours here. Our winter peak occurs that cold morning, usually around 6:30 a.m. That's when everybody's doing everything at one time, brushing their teeth, washing their hair, heating water, heating their home, cooking eggs, grinding. I don't know about you, but my wife can heat up the house 10 degrees, just trying to get ready every morning. So, you know, it's everybody doing it at one time, and then we don't have a commercial load like the city of Dothan, that's an example, that you set this big, huge peak, you've got your capacity need up there, your fixed cost need, but you don't have any sales to spread that across. And so what we're going to propose to do, because remember, this is the bucket here, other than a few commercial accounts, that demand expense, we don't really bill for that. The energy and demand is wholesale power costs back to us. The energy expense, we're basically, again, that's the energy. The kilowatt hour rate that we're charging is trying to cover basically the energy and demand expense. And so we're proposing to back that out so that people will understand demand and the impact that it has on the cost, which has the impact on the rate. And if you can not, it's not a shortage of power, but it's just the highest cost power, because it's when everybody is using it, it's the highest demand. It drives up our total cost. So we're going to try to propose a rate that we already have it on our bill here. I don't see it as long, but we're putting their demand already on the bill. We're not charging for it, but we're showing them during that peak time, you know, what their demand is, so that we can give them a rate structure that will have an incentive to be off peak. What I mean by that is off peak, you might, the member could probably pay less than what they're paying now with this new rate structure we're talking about. Because as we move forward in time, we need to do it now, but certainly with EVs coming on, demand they're going to have our system. Okay, 3 minutes, I promise I'm almost done. This is going to be huge. It's going to help our members get through the next 20 years, 30 years. It's going to help us continue to provide a reliable and affordable cost, because we want to keep America lit. Just one couple slides here. One could argue that the EVs are being done because of the green initiative. Okay? Well, just look at some of the minerals that are used for an electric vehicle versus a conventional vehicle, gas power. Look at the amount of raw materials, earth, that has to be disturbed to make a battery for an electric vehicle. Same way with generation. Natural gas, coal, certainly coal is an all-out assault on, don't use it. Well, look at what it takes to do some of those, friendlier, greener generation techniques. So anyway, I'll stop here. Appreciate your time. Always here, Wiregrass Electric, to help answer any questions, anything that you have. We would always have an open book. So thank you again. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Brad and Les. Interesting program.
That was one hour presentation, Chris, so we left a lot out. Come talk to us.
All right. I'd like to thank our guests today and everyone that helped make this work today. If we could, let's do the four-way test. Let's all stand. Other things we think, say, and do.
This is the truth. This is where all concerned. Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?